Reminder that we are going to be recording this morning, just so that you're aware. Good morning and welcome everyone to Advocacy Day. Today is Family Advocacy Day, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you. Just a minute ago, I was saying that if you're interested in having this fantastic virtual background that I see a few of us have now, Anthony, Ivanova, Diana, myself, and Eric, and maybe a couple others, we can put it in the chat box for you to download and make it your own virtual background. The artist is Ivanova Smith, so kudos to her for making this for us for our Advocacy Day today. My name is Jeremy Nordenpaul. I'm the Executive Director of the Washington State Developmental Disabilities Council. As always, we're extremely thankful to self-advocates and leadership, the ARC, and all of the other partners who make this event possible, and everyone else who works behind the scenes to advocate and bring people together and educate legislators and staff about important issues. And today is no different. We're here today to talk about some very important issues related to families. Families, as we all know, are the backbone of our communities. We all have families in one shape or form, whether they're by blood or by choice or by association. Families are an incredibly important part of our lives. And so I thought, just to start, maybe we could each share an example in the chat box of some example of how your family supports you or you support your family. It can be anything. And I'll go first. In my family, I am the designated errand runner. So I do all the grocery shopping, all the trips to Home Depot, and picking up soil and all that kind of stuff. I enjoy it. It's time for me to kind of be by myself and help take care of the family. So I am the errand runner of our family. So what are some other ways that you support your family or that your family supports you? I'd love to hear some of those examples. Let's give folks a minute to do that. And while we're doing that, I'll just give you a quick reminder to, when you're not speaking, please keep yourself muted, and that way we don't get any background noise. Another reminder, we do have a special guest today, Senator Braun, who will be here around 10:30, but he may get here a little earlier. He is on the floor today, so we're doing our best to accommodate his schedule. So if we have to rearrange things a little bit, or if we have to interrupt you politely, don't be offended. It's just because we want to respect Senator Braun's time, because he has a very short amount of time to be here with us today. So let me take a look at the chat box here. Some great examples. All right, Doreen is a social organizer and helps get people together. I love that. Tracy's grandkids shovel snow off the sidewalks and driveway. We needed some of that in Tacoma over the weekend, I tell you. We were unprepared for all that snow. Adrian, designated cookie eater. I would also accept that hat if I could have another hat. Kyle, I see that your brother helps you. Sharon cooks, cleans, and provides love to her husband and daughter in their home. Sean is the tech worker of the family, fixing tech issues. Sean, be careful advertising that, because you might have a bunch of people start contacting you about all their Zoom issues. Francie's a gardener, landscaper, and outdoor respite provider. Debbie is a dinner fixer for her dad. Nancy does the shopping just like I do. Hattie, your son likes to get everyone's laundry to the laundry room. If he's ever looking for a side hustle, a side job, I'd be happy to have him help us with that. Time to sleep parent. Noah, I got you. I think you and Ivanova are in the same bucket there. Bedtime parent. Lots of great examples. I think it's very clear that we're all part of a family in some way, and families are incredibly important. And the thing is, with policies and bills and programs, they can either make things easier for families to do that for each other, or they can make things more challenging for families to do that for each other. And we as advocates try to be on the right side of history, and making things better and easier for families. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So we're very excited to have a list of fantastic presenters, including Senator Braun. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ivanova Smith, who is my fellow MC, who's going to introduce herself, and then she's going to introduce each of our speakers. Take it away, Ivanova.
Hello, I'm Ivanova Smith, and I am the chair of Self-Advocate and Leadership. And I'm also just had another little baby girl named Hildegard. So I'm really excited in my family right now, and I am feeding little Hildegard. So that is one of my main jobs right now. Now we're gonna first introduce our next speaker, which is Beth, Cobra, the Developmental Disabilities Administration. Take it away, Beth.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be able to join this wonderful meeting. This last year has brought us challenges, and our advocacy system has risen to this challenge to advocate that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families are part of the response during this public health emergency. And while this year has brought these unexpected challenges and loss for too many of those we care about, we have also had a few bright spots. I'm so glad to be participating today, and we at DDA are appreciative of each of you and the efforts you have made to support the community and this system over this past challenging year. As you're probably aware, the legislative session is also a challenge with the accompanying economic downturn. And even with this economic downturn, we still have some hopeful possibilities afoot for growth of the service system to support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I just want to take a few minutes to speak about DDA home and community-based services. Many of you probably are aware, but I'll just do a little intro for those who might not be real familiar with our services. DDA offers the Community First Choice Program. That's a state plan Medicaid program, and the primary service in that is a personal care service delivered in a person's home or in a licensed setting like an adult family home. We also have 5 1915C waivers, which have a range of supports from respite for the primary caregiver to out-of-home residential services to employment supports, which provide for integrated employment at competitive wages. And many of the services on the waivers are also available in combination with that community first choice service I spoke about. So the process to request services if you are DDA eligible is to contact your case manager, or if you don't currently have services and don't currently have a case manager, contact us online or by telephone. So this legislative session, we have a few items of particular interest that were included in the governor's budget. The governor has included an expansion of the Children's Intensive In-Home Behavior Support Waiver by 100 people. And that doesn't seem like a lot initially, but that actually doubles the size of the waiver. And while this is a small waiver, it can do a lot of good for children and families by offering access to some of our newest services like specialized habilitation and services that are special to this particular waiver and that are new are music therapy, equine therapy, and therapeutic adaptations. Another item to support children is expansion of residential capacity for children's residential services offered at a state-operated community residential bed. Currently, we only have one home with 3 beds, and the governor's budget bill proposes to add 5 new children's homes with a total of 15 more beds. And our legislators are putting forward a number of other bills to support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, their families, and their paid providers. And I just want to thank you for your advocacy. It is thanks to you that we have informed policymakers interested in our service delivery system. And it's of a special interest, just circling back during this economic downturn, that they're still putting forward positive change and great ideas. So with that, I'd be willing to answer questions or address concerns or transition on.
Does anyone have any questions for Beth? I don't see any chat. Does anybody have their hand raised?
I have a question, Beth. This is Jeremy, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but since we're here for Advocacy Day, do you have any suggestions for how we advocates can support and educate about the things that you're talking about? I mean, it's probably the obvious things, talking with our legislators, but anything in particular you think we should be doing?
Well, I recognize so many of your names on the call, and I think one of the things that has been so successful in our state is you all sharing personal stories, personal triumphs of how the things that are good have supported you, and also the things where improvement is needed, whether that's an increase in capacity or a change in availability, and also beyond DDA. So many people in our community don't necessarily get services from DDA. It's much broader than that, whether it's housing or advocacy for healthcare services or many other things. It's just so important. I think tying that personal experience together with the facts has shown us a lot of success.
Thanks, Beth. And I see that Stacy had to put a question in the chat box asking what DDA's priorities are for this legislative session.
Well, I mentioned a couple of those. Those are put forward in the governor's budget. Our priorities are some of those things, like expansion and continuing availability of services. There are some other areas that are mentioned in the governor's budget. See, one that comes to mind is expansion of PASAR capacity. So DDA offers specialized services to people with developmental disabilities who are living in a nursing facility. A nursing facility is responsible for so many things, the healthcare, the food, and all of those things, the rehab, but there are things that are special that a person with intellectual and developmental disabilities needs. And we've just had so much success in our state program, offering things like community engagement, employment supports, assistive technology. And so it's not just about the person living in their own home. It's also about supporting our full community. So I'm kind of excited that we need more money for that, because it just shows that we're doing a good job offering that. So let's see.
There's a follow-up question kind of related to what you were just saying, Beth, about the federal commitment to home and community-based services and how that's affecting us here in Washington.
Well, that is something that's playing out, and some of the things that we're seeing are ideas for enhanced match. So, as some of you may be aware, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act gave us enhanced match, and one of the things that's on the table is having that be ongoing or having it be more. That money has been vital to us being able to offer in-home caregivers and agency providers the equipment that they need to be safe. That might be N95 masks, which we're now sending out to every IP. So if you're a contracted provider, you're going to be getting at least a few masks in the mail, even if the person you support doesn't have an aerosol generating procedure. Gloves, regular masks, not N95s. We've also used that money to pay higher rates to some of our provider types who provide direct care. That money has been absolutely essential to adult family homes, supported living providers, other providers, because to keep the people they support safe, they have been trying to move people around less to residential homes, so less staff flow or transition to limit that. And then the cost of keeping people safe in that equipment is really high. And then there's, other costs. So that money has been valuable. Additionally, on the federal front, I think we really see a lot of buy-in on expanded capacity, expanded funding for supporting people at home. I'm just so glad to see an understanding that in-home services and supporting people to be independent and make their own choices is successful and works. It can be affordable, but the feds are maybe now interested in putting the money where the talk is. So that's positive. But all of those things at the federal level are in development. So more to come on that.
Thank you for answering those questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? I do see some in the.
Ivanova, this is Kyle. Excuse me for interrupting, but I do got one ask a question.
Okay.
As you know, our state RACs, we're trying to get them closed down. As the main mission. Do you know of anything about as they go through you guys to help them for community placements as part of their person-centered plan? Because there's about 100 or so people that are ready to go, just lack of housing.
Oh, housing is a big issue. I think it's affordable housing is an important issue for all citizens of Washington, especially with the economic downturn. And so it makes it, that's another difficulty that our providers of residential services run into, finding affordable housing that meets the needs of people that are wanting to discharge. I think there are some interesting bills, and there are a lot of great advocacy efforts from people on the call, actually, that are helping to highlight the need with our legislators, that there maybe if there's a set aside or some other things at Commerce to help the Housing Trust Fund or other good ideas there. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, generalized,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
I have some questions in the chat.
Okay, I'll try to go down those. I think I can see all of them in the chat.
Yeah, so Stacy said, what are DDA's priorities for legislative session? At the federal level, there's a big commitment to HCBS, Community on Home and Based Services right now. How might that affect us and improve services for all of us?
Yeah, and I think I tried to address that one. Stacy, I'd be happy to help elaborate if you have a specific federal effort. I can jump down to the next question, which I think is the medically intensive children's program and adult private duty nurse program in your area? Yes. So I'm an office chief. I guess I didn't introduce myself very well. And in my area, we do provide for some of the policy support for those areas. So if you have a specific question about nursing needs for kids or adults, I'd be happy to talk about that. I see a specific question from Maria, and I think I'll reach out to you directly about your personal question.
We also have a question from Adrian. The higher rates are scheduled to go away for IPs on March 31st. Is there any effort to kind of get that extended or even made permanent?
So there is a bill in the legislature right now to extend it at least through the end of the fiscal year. And it is either House Bill 1068 or 1067. I can look that when I'm up and put it in the chat when I'm off the camera. So rates for individual providers are negotiated. They're collectively bargained. So any efforts for higher rates beyond the emergency increases would need to be negotiated. But beyond the end of the fiscal year, there is talk about what that would look like because, the need isn't changing even as we start to have vaccines go out successfully and things like that. Those higher rates are important for our individual providers and home care agencies for that matter to stay safe and be able to be successful in the services they provide.
Thank you. Stacy asks, we understand that there are federally matched funds at the lowest rate of 50% because our per capita income is high. So as a wealthy state overall, we have to come up with more state dollars than most states to provide waiver and other services. Is that correct?
Well, the Community First Choice program is actually matched at 56%. There's an enhanced match for that program, and that is one of our biggest programs. But Stacy, yes, you are correct that for the 1915C waivers and most of the services that we're providing, it is it's a 50% match, and that does differ by state based on income and other factors. So the state does have to come up with 50% of the match. And there are different matching rates for different things, like administrative services for PASSAR is 75%. The client services are still matched at 50%. And Roads to Community Living has a higher match rate as well. And that is our program that helps people discharge from institutional settings and get started successfully in the community. And there are some, going back to the federal efforts, there are some cool things that have happened with that program recently. So Congress has changed the RCL program so that people can get started on the RCL grant with only 60 days of admittance. And I think we're waiting for some direction from CMS about that. And so some cool things there. And let's see.
The next question I see from Tracy. I know House Bill 1120 is aimed at increasing DHS flexibility around provider training when there is a natural disaster. What is DDA doing now to ensure supported living agencies are able to bring staff on quickly / safely?
So there are some executive orders that are currently giving us flexibilities around training. One of the things that is going on now are some efforts at rule changes so that when those statutory exemptions on training requirements end, that those staff can meet any training requirements that they didn't meet during the emergency in a way that's reasonable for the supported living agencies to manage. I think one of the best ways for us to continue supporting supported living agencies is those enhanced rates during the public health emergency, so that those agencies can manage their own hiring needs and, staffing rates and things themselves.
Thank you. And the last question I see is from Hattie. Is there any updated information on IP testing? My son's IP started her training in March 2020. Then the pandemic hit, finished her training in September 2020. It's now February of 2021, and she still hasn't been able to take the test. By the time that she would be tested, she might as well retake all the trainings. Does it seem right that they're in a hurry to get them trained, but the actual test isn't really taking place, creates an unfair advantage?
Well, Hattie, that is something that we're struggling with, which I mentioned, some of the ways we're trying to be creative to balance the executive orders and flexibilities that we've been granted with the difficulties that it's going to make catching up when we resume normal business at some point. Department of Health, is the agency that manages testing. I think they're also interested to whatever degree or flexibility they have in how they help people get their credentialing and get caught up. So they are working with DSHS staff to kind of coordinate those efforts. One thing I would say, there is, for those people that can take training, Hattie's correct, there's an effort to keep people trained and get them trained as they come in. And one of the reasons for that is the large amount of people that come in each month and become individual providers. We have about 4,000 to 5,000 people a month that come in as brand new providers. So that's one of the reasons for trying to keep people, when they're able to, up to date on training requirements and things like that, because, it's just such large numbers of people. Oh, and Doreen sent a question. I can read this. One of my favorite questions, actually. What stance does DDA take on adding a TEFRA state plan option that would open Apple Health and community first choice access to all children with disabilities in Washington? We identified children in low income as a risk group and added CHIP coverage. Why not children with disabilities? That is definitely a gap in care for children. So there, as far as a stance, we'll take the direction from the legislature and how they want us to implement something like this and when they would want to do that. We worked together with the Healthcare Authority and submitted a report to the legislature on this, providing options, because in addition to the TEFRA state plan option, there are other routes to getting coverage for those kids and families who could really benefit from the Medicaid coverage. The Medicaid coverage can give those kids and families access to so many benefits. And Doreen, mentions community first choice, but in addition to that, it could be help with premium payments or other funds. I think all of us know the high cost that families bear of those premiums and additional medical costs. So there's a lot of things that could help families if we found a route to getting those kids onto Medicaid. But how and when we do that, we'll look to the legislature and they'll give us direction on how to do that. But advocacy, Doreen has done a great job and testified on that issue. So more to come, I'm sure.
Oh, this is Stacy. Beth and Doreen, do you all have a definition of children with disabilities? I'm assuming that how big that definition is would impact what it would cost us to add them.
Yeah, TEFRA is pretty specific in the who can be covered. It's a combination of meeting the federal Social Security definition of disability. Beth, interrupt me if I'm wrong with anything. I'm doing a lot of research these days. Up to the age of 18, so 19 and younger, and meets the ICF MR level of care or nursing facility level of care for our state. So it would involve, in Washington, a care tool assessment that showed that they met that level of care.
Yeah, that's basically it. It would be up to us to define it. It's very, very hard to estimate how many kids might fall into this coverage type. The TEFRA option that Doreen mentioned would incorporate that as a state plan entitlement benefit. So it would be wide open. Some other options that were put forward maybe could cap it or do some other things. So there could maybe be an interim solution, but pros and cons with all those options out there.
Looks like we have some questions around children under 18. Can you please explain what the thinking is behind the full-time caregivers who are parents not being able to be paid through DDA or DHS as an IP until the child is 18? Other states give parents an option to either have an outside caregiver come in who is paid or get paid for the caregiving themselves if they are uncomfortable with or can't find an outside caregiver.
Yeah, that policy decision has been long standing in our state. definitely understand the desire to pay parents in some circumstances that it definitely could make sense. It would be a very large systemic shift for our state to make those changes. I think if that's something that our legislators or others wanted to look at, we'd definitely be able to look at that. It couldn't be something that would be done at the flip of a switch, but would need to be explored and evaluated as to how assessments would change and things like that. And then another question from Krista. What steps has DDA considered over the years to provide crisis stabilization and address the needs people have for housing? Well, so for the housing issue, which we talked about a little bit earlier, I think there's a lot of great advocacy efforts with the agencies that provide housing. Affordable housing is an issue for everyone in our state right now, but it's especially pronounced for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I think, Commerce has the Housing Trust Fund. I think advocates are doing some efforts around a set aside or some other things. And then for our supported living providers and other providers that have a service that supports people in obtaining housing, they definitely have some interest in seeing progress in that area. Let's see. And the other part of the question, crisis stabilization. So we have contracts for specialized habilitation, crisis stabilization, and specialized habilitation, staff and family consultation. I think ongoing efforts to tie in the behavioral health crisis services and make them work better for people with developmental disabilities is an area that needs continued work. Gosh, I guess I'm not really answering the question. I think one area that that we've improved on is and will be an improvement over this next year is the opening of the facilities. So the reopening of the children's out-of-home facility for a short-term stabilization stay, and also the grand opening of the stabilization and intervention facility for adults. So those are both state-operated settings that can provide some quick out-of-home services and supports for there. Let's see.
All right. So I'm going to allow Jeremy now to make an announcement. Thank you,
Thanks.
Beth. For
Oh,
answering
thank you
those
so
questions.
much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you,
Take it away,
Beth.
Jeremy.
And thanks to everyone who has sent questions and provided your perspective and your stories. It's very helpful to help us all understand the importance of these issues. And so before Ivanova introduces our next speaker, I just wanted to take a minute to remind you about a feedback survey. I shared a link a few minutes ago in the chat box, but I'm going to put it back in there. Every single Advocacy Day, we share this survey link with you. It's a very short survey, just a few questions. And it helps us make this event better and better every week. And so we really, really appreciate your feedback. And so you can even do it while we're talking or do it right afterwards. It should only take you about 30 seconds or a minute. So I'm going to put the link back in there. That way you have it, and we'll keep sharing it with you every time. So thanks, Ivanova, for letting me give that reminder. And I turn it back to you to introduce our next presenter.
All right. So Senator Braun is not here yet, but when he pops on, we will allow him to present. But in the meantime, we're going to introduce our next presenter, Tracy Hoppus of the Washington State Parent to Parent. Take it away, Tracy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Ivanova and Jeremy. We're going to start with a video. Thank you, Diana. Diana, we don't have sound. At least I don't have sound.
Me neither.
Yeah, we
You might
still
have to
can't.
come in and then go out again and then hit the sound deal.
I don't have sound
So it's
either.
been
There it is.
My name is Danielle. I have one child who has a disability. He has cerebral palsy, hydrocephalus, epilepsy. So it's been challenging. When you get this diagnosis, it's kind of, I don't know, you kind of feel alone. How I got involved in Parent to Parent was there was a couple other moms that I have known previously through my son going to preschool. And through that, I was told about the support group, Parent to Parent, and that they have all these fun activities to kind of make your different life feel normal again. I reached out to Parent to know that I wasn't alone for that support, to answer some of the questions that I had regarding my child and his development. It was very surprising to me that there were other people out there that are just as lost and sad and looking for that support as I was, and Parent to Parent had that. I stood back for many years, and then once I was finally able to accept that it's okay, that it is okay to be vulnerable, I absolutely love it.
Thank you, Diana. So I am Tracy Hoppus, and I coordinate the Washington State Parent to Parent Network, and I'm so happy to be here with you all this morning. Parent to Parent provides family support opportunities to parents and families raising children with special health and developmental needs. We are a network that serves every county throughout Washington State. We currently have 26 programs serving 39 counties. Thank you, Diana. We have the map up in front of you with a little bit of data from last year, just sharing some numbers basically around the work that we're doing. So as you can see, we served over 18,000 parents and family members throughout the state. And we provided parent support, sibling support, family connections, information, and referral. We have nearly 39,000 parents and professionals on mailing lists. We have a little over 17,000 social media followers. We also have about 830 helping parents, which I'll tell you more about. And we facilitated over 600 helping parent matches. So again, we have 26 programs serving 39 counties throughout the state. And we also have 12 programs with multicultural coordinators. Thank you, Diana. You can take that off the screen now, and I'll share some additional details. So we have in Washington State, in those 26 programs, over 50 coordinators, including 12 bilingual, bicultural, Spanish speaking coordinators serving families. And Parent to Parent, you may or may not be aware of this, but all the staff in Parent to Parent are parents and family members themselves. So we are on this journey along with the families that we're serving. Makes us quite unique in the ability to relate and support families raising kids with developmental disabilities. We are an evidence-based model of peer support where parents are matched with other parents experiencing a similar situation with their child or children. So there's been many studies about the validity and the benefit of parent-to-parent support and how it increases connection to other families and reduces feelings of isolation. And that's exactly what Danielle talked about in the video. And just being part of a community, a supportive community where others really can come alongside and share information is so very helpful and actually vital to families. In addition to the parent matching program, Parent to Parent offers a variety of other supportive activities for families. So everything from a traditional support group in English or other languages to family social events, sibling support, father support, social rec programming for kids and youth with developmental disabilities. With the pandemic, Parent to Parent across the state quickly moved all programming to a virtual platform. So we now in this last year have provided hundreds of Zoom groups and activities via the Zoom platform for families. So they have a continued opportunity to connect with one another. And that, as we know, is so very helpful during this pandemic, which has pushed us, further into isolation. So Parent to Parent is very thankful to Washington State and DDA, Department of Health for state funding, as well as local funding across the state to local programs to enable us to provide services free of cost for families so they can access support and connection with other families. So that's some information about Parent to Parent. I'm happy to answer any questions if you'd like. I'm also a parent and I have a 30-year-old son, Andy, who has a developmental disability, and Andy will be 31 in March, and he's already excited about that, has his birthday wish list already. And so yeah, please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, looks like we have one question in the chat. It's a teen Zoom group. My son has been very lonely since the pandemic.
Yes, that's a great question. So honestly, one of the silver linings to the pandemic is the ability for parent-to-parent programs and other programs to offer things virtually and eliminate the physical barriers. And so, for example, Yakima has a teen group, and potentially individuals from other parts of the state could attend. If you would like to reach out to me, I'm going to put my email in the chat box, and I can connect you to possibly a closer program that's providing a teen group, or even a program across the state that your teen could join. And I see Stacy. Yes, we definitely have a need for more parent helpers. And so Parent to Parent provides training to veteran parents who are interested in supporting new parents on the journey. And so those veteran parents are called helping parents. We're doing all of our trainings online, of course, and we're always looking to increase the number of helping parents that we have so that we can make a match between a helping parent and a new parent for that emotional support and information, and just that person to walk alongside. So yes, I'm just looking at the additional. I'll put my email again in the chat box, so please reach out to me and I can provide information and also connection to a local program. Also on the ARC of Washington's website, there's a parent-to-parent page where we have a map of all of the parent-to-parent programs across Washington State and contact information. So you can also reach out to a local program through that website and that parent-to-parent page.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for all that wonderful information.
You're welcome.
Next, we will now move on to our next presenter, who actually is a person I know very well and who helped me in my own parenting journey. And she's going to talk about a great organization called PAVE that has been very supportive of both parents with disabilities and parents with children with disabilities. Take it away, Doreen.
Thanks, Ivanova. That was, a lovely intro. I appreciate you. Hi, guys. I'm Doreen Vandervoort. I work for the fabulous organization called Washington PAVE. We are the home of the Parent Center for Washington State. And what that means is we provide one-on-one technical assistance, information, and training around special education services and supports for families. We also host a variety of programs. I'm lucky to be one of the parent-to-parent affiliates here in Pierce County. So we love Tracy and our network and the ARC and all their support. We are a statewide organization. We provide support through quite a few different programs. I'm going to focus on our statewide programs, which are the Parent Training and Information Center, Family Voices of Washington, which helps families with accessing appropriate insurance and healthcare supports for their children with special healthcare needs. And the Lifespan Respite Program, which Tracy earlier posted a lot of really good information in the chat, Tracy Carlos, so thank you for that. If you guys are interested in that. Is it okay for me to share screen? Am I allowed to do that? I'm gonna try. So here is our wonderful PAVE website, and there is a lot of amazing resources that are designed for individuals with disabilities and their families, like our toolkit basics for students with disabilities. Any family or professional can use our Get Help form here to refer a family for assistance, or to get help or ask questions about services in the process here in Washington from any of our team members. We also have our Family Voices Washington page, which has a ton of great articles and resources specific around medical insurance, Apple Health and Medicaid, Medicaid waivers. There's also staff who can assist families with navigation support. And our Lifespan Respite Program, which is such an incredible resource for families who don't have any service currently. And so if you are supporting families and you're finding they really have no other state services or supports in their home, this can be a kind of a gap program. The voucher here is for caregivers of really any person who requires caregiving in the state of Washington. So you can learn more about that here at the Lifespan Respite WA.org. So I wanted to just share all that. And then I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about TEFRA, because I think that's such an important subject. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to share about it with a group, with you guys as a group. So I put together a really short PowerPoint to talk through it. And please ask a lot of questions and email afterwards. We want to get as many people involved in talking about a TEFRA state plan option. Oftentimes people hear about it called the Katie Beckett waiver option. And the reason for that is that this lovely young woman, Katie Beckett, is sort of inspired this change under the Reagan administration. In 1982, this tax option was added so that individual states could choose to add TEFRA 1115 programs and waivers. So this was sort of the beginning of home and community-based waivers, and that we have in our state, and these TEFRA programs, which are state plan options offering Medicaid to all kids with disabilities, regardless of family income. So in Washington, we do not have both. We do have Apple Health Medicaid, and that is really important for children with special health care needs, because Apple Health covers more of the services that children in our state need. It's better for ongoing medical needs than private insurance alone, and there are no copays. These are a lot of the services that are covered under the state plan that are really important. Oftentimes, employer sponsored insurance doesn't provide enough of a service or enough coverage for the need. So this was Ronald Reagan who talked about why do we pay for very expensive institutional services for children when they can be served at home with families. So the problem right now in Washington state is that Apple Health is mainly for children at the lowest income levels, but children with special health care needs are found at all income levels. Children with disabilities in our state are not automatically given Washington Apple Health. They also have to meet financial eligibility criteria for their household. Families who earn too much to qualify have few options for getting Apple Health. DDA exclusions like spinal cord injuries, muscular dystrophy, too high IQs, neurological conditions, or other things that don't have significantly low cognitive. Medical care for children with disabilities can cost more than families can afford, even with private insurance coverage. I'm sure many, many, many people in this room have experienced that. We're not allowed to access Apple Health as a secondary insurance option because it makes incomes much, much lower, income requirements much, much lower. So it really incentivizes families to take extreme options to get coverage, healthcare coverage for their children. So things that I've heard, these are things families told me they've heard as their options: quit your job or take a lower paying job, or work less hours, divorce your spouse and live in separate households, move away, or apply for a DDA waiver and wait up to 10 years or more due to caps and strict eligibility criteria, or maybe never get that. Put your child in an institution or facility, even though you'd rather care for them at home, or give up custody of your child. And even more frequently with families who have children who are having extreme behavioral health concerns, it's send them to another state to live because there is no crisis options here for them. So benefits for the state. States that have implemented this, like Minnesota, really are finding that they're only covering, 25% of the total health related costs for children in the programs. Because what it's doing is it's not incentivizing poverty, right? It encourages families to go to work and have employer paid benefits to be the first set of coverage, and then potentially a premium supported Apple Health as secondary coverage. So there's a lot of things. So what's really important about this, and I'm gonna not go through this entire PowerPoint because I feel like all of this is very technical and I wanna leave time to answer questions. We have two choices, right? We have home and community-based waivers like DDA. They could add a Katie Beckett waiver option to expand the number of waivers available. That's what they proposed after looking at the tougher option, largely because in Washington state, we don't have a handle on how many people with disabilities are living in our state or who are without services. And that's not a question we're asking. And it doesn't seem to be like, it doesn't seem like those numbers really exist somewhere that I could easily access. Maybe Beth or some other people can help with that. But that we're not really asking the question for children with special health care needs in using those early periodic screening and determination services in Washington state. So thank you guys. And yeah, you can contact us. I'll put an email in there and to ask questions and stuff. So thank you so much for your time today. And I hope this is something we can make happen in our state.
Thank you, Doreen. If you have any questions for Doreen, please email her or PAVE office for those. So that we would like to now move on to our next presenter, Moses Perez of Open Doors for Multicultural Families. Take it away, Moses.
Hello, everyone. Hola todos. My name is Moses Perez, and I'm with Open Doors for Multicultural Families. First of all, I just want to congratulate Ivanova. That is awesome. We have a large family and we're still growing too. So thank you all for this time. I want to thank Diane and also the ARC of Washington State for this invitation, as well as all the other presenters that went before me and they're going to come after. I'm learning a lot today, so thank you for that. I also want to thank the advocates that are here, my fellow advocates, and most of all, our heroes, the self-advocates. So thank you all. As I said, my name is Moses Perez. I am the program manager for the Advocacy and Civic Engagement program at Open Doors. I was brought kind of into the world of disability and intellectual and developmental disability in different ways, but personally, my family, I was born to a mother who was born with polio. And then also later on, my brother and my sister developed special healthcare needs, such as my brother is diagnosed with schizophrenia, and this was back in the early 70s that my mom was having to navigate herself having polio and not knowing about schizophrenia or bipolar. I think today they're still trying to get a handle on that. So I feel for families trying to navigate complex systems. And at Open Doors, that's specifically what we do. We're a nonprofit charitable organization dedicated to ensuring that families with family members who have intellectual or developmental disabilities and or special healthcare needs, I stress that, have equal access to culturally and linguistically appropriate information, resources, and services. What that means is that we specifically focus on reaching those who are having the most difficulty in navigating the systems like DDA, or even their district, their school district system, or their local school. We have family support specialists that assist our families in navigating these complex systems, as well as they go and attend their child's IEP meetings. And most recently during COVID, we found out that the major need of our families was food and rental assistance. And many of these families can't or don't know how to access services or programs that help, these types of families in their situations. So we're thankful to our funders as well as King County who helped us to help our families when they were most in need. So thank you all for that. A bill that we're, I would say, not just closely following, but we've been intimately involved in is House Bill 1153. And this is a bill, this is a continuation of House Bill 1130 that passed in 2019, sorry. And this is to help increase language access in public schools. As I said, many of the families that we work with are multicultural and speak other languages other than English. So if you can imagine being a parent of a child with a developmental disability and not being afforded professional translation or interpretation services, those meetings are complicated enough. And so what we're trying to do here is basically do just that, ensure that schools are doing what they're supposed to be doing and following the law in providing translation and interpretation to parents with family members that do have a developmental or an intellectual disability. But this bill goes even beyond that. It just says interpretation for everyone, because that's what the law says. So please, if you get a moment, please research that, support it. Again, it's HB 1153. I'm really excited. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Moses.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to interrupt you because it looks like Senator Braun has
perfect.
just arrived. Thank
Good.
you so much for
Yeah.
your information that you give. But now we would like to respect Senator Braun's time and introduce him. He is working on legislation 5268, and he'd like to talk to us. Thank you, Senator Braun, for being here today. Are you on? I think you're muted.
Ivanova, I'm not seeing Senator Braun in the list. Did you see him come in?
I saw him come in.
Okay.
It said John Braun.
Okay.
He
may have gotten, may have had to leave again for another reason. So maybe we can, while we wait for him to come back in.
I apologize then, Moses. You can continue until we get that figured out. I apologize.
Hey, that's no problem. And I totally understand that about the scheduling. When we make calls with those legislators, we got 10 minutes to tell our whole life story. So I understand they're very busy. So thank you, Avino. I was just gonna say that I'm super excited personally because at Open Doors, we have just launched our family leadership training. And of course, as others have mentioned previously, we're having to deliver services virtually. And this family leadership training, advocacy training is quite unique in that it's designed by multicultural families for multicultural families. So they've been involved in the co-creation of the curriculum itself, as well as the delivery. Currently, we have 20 participants that are in this family leadership training program, and they represent 8 different cultures. So we're learning a lot, and we're trying to provide and make an example of what multicultural advocacy should look like. Some of the cultures that are represented are Chinese, Kurdish, Somali, Latino, Amharic, Tigrinya, African American, Native American, and Pacific Islander. So you can imagine the richness of the discussions that we are having during this training. And I'm really excited because that was kind of my baby when I first started working at Open Doors as a coordinator, and now I'm seeing it through as a program manager. So if any of you have any questions about this particular training, this is our first cohort. We'll be doing additional cohorts later on this year, as well as developing the same type of material for self-advocates for the families that we serve. And I also just want to give a shout out to the DD Council, Adrian Stewart. She has been instrumental in helping our team, the advocacy and civic engagement team. In fact, she's come to about 3 or 4 of our team meetings to present and teach us. So I appreciate her. And she's also going to be a presenter at our leadership conference, our leadership training here in a few weeks, I think in session 8. Also, I think I saw Tim McHugh from DD Ombuds here on the call. Thank you, Tim. He's been instrumental. He's helping us as an IT coordinator. So he knows a lot about online delivery now and advocacy training virtually. So I'm sorry, Tim, if you get a bunch of invites there and questioning, but he has been also awesome in helping Open Doors. And he's also going to be one of our presenters as a self-advocate. So that's it. I just thank you all again for the invite. And I'm just enjoying the knowledge sharing that's going on today. Thanks again, Diana and the Arc of Washington. Thanks, Ivanova.
Thank you. So it looks like Senator Braun has not come back in yet. Hopefully he will pop up in the waiting room again. I will press that amendment button if I have to. We're gonna move on to our next speaker. And if you have any questions for Moses, please email him your questions, and I'm sure he will be happy to get back to you. We're a little behind on time, so our next presenter is Debbie Chapman of the Washington State Parent Coalescence. Take it away, Debbie.
Thank you, Ivanova. Thank you for letting me represent the statewide parent coalitions. Parent coalitions provide information, education resources, and advocacy for families throughout the state. We have traditionally represented the largest amount of families in the state of Washington. Right now, we are 13 parent coalitions covering 16 counties, and we would like to be as full as parent to parent and be in every single county and cooperate with them, because that gives a very full round wraparound services for parents. We are the place that parents can come for information. We do one-on-ones. We have conversations with them. We help them have conversations with their government entities. I've always thought our job is to help them become better self-advocates for their families in every area of their life, because we advocate in every area.
Excuse me, Debbie, can I interrupt you a minute? Senator Braun just called me. He's trying to get in, so he's going to be coming in again, and we're going to put him on right away. Is that okay?
That is fine with me.
You can go ahead and talk for a minute until we see him come in there.
So just so it's really quick, you can find contact information for your local parent coalitions on the ARC website. We are currently listed. We also have a Facebook group, the Washington State Parent Coalitions, that you can contact and send a message. We will connect you with your local parent coalitions. Our coalitions are housed, we are all paid and work a little differently. We have some that are in agencies, some are independent contractors, some are paid by county funding, and some are not. So we are very independent and different. We share a wealth of advocacy and education. We are, amongst our current coordinators, we have 60 years of experience in this field, and we'll like to share that information with families. My own personal philosophy is we shouldn't be penalized for zip codes, and it shouldn't be this hard. I am a sibling and a parent of individuals with IDD, and really just want to embrace the state and become stronger and advocates all the way around. So, and if you have any questions, I will put my contact information in the box and we'll go from there. So
Thank you
know
so much, Debbie. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions for Debbie, please email her and she will be happy to answer your questions. Has Senator Braun been able to come in yet, Diana?
No, I'm watching for him, but I haven't seen him come in yet.
All right, so
rather than show the video, Ivanova, let's go ahead and have Luis Mendoza speak first until we see Senator Braun.
All right, so Luis, just be prepared if you will need to stop if Senator Braun comes in, but right now I will give you the floor. Take it away. Luis Mandela, and he is from the Washington State Fathers Network.
Thank you, but I wanted to make sure, oops, hang on, sorry. I think looking at the agenda, I think Brittany and Sean McLucas were on the schedule before me, so I want to make sure I'm not taking their spot.
Thanks, Luis, but they have a video to share, so that, just so that we don't have to interrupt their video, we're gonna come back to that after. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for being thoughtful, though.
Sure. Well, thanks everybody. Glad to be here this morning, and Ivanova, congratulations on your new arrival. That's very exciting news. I'm Luis Mendoza. I manage a program called the Washington State Fathers Network for a nonprofit called Kindering, based in Bellevue. One of our goals is to offer the opportunity for men who have children with special health care needs to connect with each other. So I thought I'd start with a couple of stories. I've been with the network for about 5 years now. And this first story actually comes from before my time with the network. The story goes that there was a dad who was attending some of the support groups in his area, and he stopped attending. But after some time, he came back. When he came back, he explained that the reason he came back was that his son had finally been toilet trained, and he didn't know anybody else in his life that knew how important that was, how significant that was to him, other than the men in this group. And he said he may not come back again, but he knew that if he needed those men, they would be there for him. The second story is actually about my very first meeting with the Fathers Network. At that meeting, one of the dads said that he needed some advice with a situation he had. And he explained that he had never been the disciplinarian in his household, but that things were changing and that now he needed to be that person, and he didn't know how. So the rest of the meeting was spent with him asking questions and the other dads offering advice based on their own experience. Now, not every meeting that we have covers such significant territory, but those two stories give a really good example of why the Fathers Network exists. That is to provide the connections and resources and information that all too often men don't provide for themselves. So those connections can be very, very impactful for a parent, in this case, a man, to know that you're not alone in what you're experiencing with your child and your family, to be able to have someone to talk to who understands and who can offer some information, resources, and perspective that would be helpful to you. So we try to facilitate those connections. As I mentioned, we do that through support groups like I just described, some of them through social activities. Of course, everything now is being done virtually. The social activities can be just for men, or they could be family oriented. Both are available. Connections can happen one-on-one. Someone wanted to contact me and say, you know, I'd like to meet another dad, and describes to me, you know, what their child's situation is, what the family situation is, where they live. I'll try to make that connection for them on a one-on-one basis if they don't want to be in a group meeting. I also spend a lot of time finding resources and information, either one-on-one for dads or just information that I can share out broadly through email or through our Facebook page. Another area that we focus on is making sure that the voices of these men are heard. We look for opportunities anywhere we can. It could be conferences, it could be a panel, it could be a podcast, hopefully at the legislature, any place we can find. And the reason that we want to do that is that when someone hears a parent talking about raising a child with special needs, most times they're going to be hearing from a mom, which is great. And I'm glad moms are stepping up to do that. But the voices of men also need to be heard. So we look for those opportunities. As part of that effort, we run a workshop called Telling Your Story with a Purpose. We run it for both men and women. And in that workshop, we teach a process where a parent can learn to advocate for policy and systems change by using a personal story related to what their ask is. And we try to get them to do that within 2 to 3 minutes. This is oftentimes really, really difficult because the parents in the workshops, the people in the workshop oftentimes have been through so much that it's difficult to get them to focus on just telling one aspect of their story. If they've got someone listening, they can easily get off on a tangent and try to tell everything that's happened to them, and they really would lose their audience at that point. So we work really hard to get them focused on telling one story related to one ask. The very last major area that we focus on is simply advocating for equal access to the community for everyone, which means that we're looking for getting to the day where no one has to think twice about whether they should be involved in a community activity, whether that is going to a park or a restaurant, a museum, a movie, the YMCA, or belonging to part of a group like the Girl Scouts. They would simply know someday down the road that they would always be welcome and that accommodations would always be available. So that's some quick information about the Fathers Network. I know that we're short on time, so I won't take questions, but I'd be happy to talk with anybody individually if you want to contact me by email. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lewis. All right. Do we want to move? Senator Braun is actually on the floor right now voting. So he'll be coming on soon. So I think we'll have time to do Brittany and Sean's McLucas, and they are parents with DD.
Ready?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Brittany, and this is my husband. What?
Sean McLucas.
And our lovely son, Jeremiah McLucas. We are parents of a handsome 1-year-old named Jeremiah. We are here to talk about the services that DDA has given us when we were expecting a baby. The first service that DDA gave us was a nurse that would come over to our house and explain how to be a good parent since we were first-time parents. The nurse also came to our house to check up on our son and see how he was doing and how he was growing. The second service DDA has given us was some resources to help us get baby items like bottles, blankets, diapers, wipes, clothes, things like that. Now that our son is 1 year old, he has started a Head Start program that our son can be in until 3 years old and is able to start preschool. He loves to talk and babble about things and say mama and dada. Our son is also going through physical therapy to help him with learning how to talk or how to walk with all of our with all of DDA's help, this is everything we have done as parents to help our kid be a good and very healthy little boy. So we just want to thank DDA for all the support and resources they have gave to help us become better parents to our son, Jeremiah McLucas. Do you have anything to add, babe?
No.
I am also a stay-home mom. Sean goes to work every day from 5 a.m. 5 a.m.?
5 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day.
Yes, so I stay home with Jeremiah and take care of Jeremiah until he is able to start school. So we just want to thank everyone for listening to our speech and have a great day. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Brittany and Sean. That's really awesome. Woot for DD parents. If Senator Braun has not come in yet, we will move on to Hold On Mohammed. of the Washington Multicultural Service link. Take it away, hold on.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the invitation for today. I also want to thank all the agency that had paved the way for us and has been doing the great work. I appreciate you all being here. Again, my name is Hodan Mohammed. I am a parent. I have 3 beautiful daughters. What brought me to the disability field is that I have a daughter, my daughter Ashwak. She has a intellectual disability, vision, and seizure disorder. And I started doing a system advocacy for DD population, mainly for East African families. I would say now my daughter's 17 and a half, so probably 16 and a half years ago. And I love what I do. I have worked in other agencies before. This is a Washington Multicultural Families is a brand new agency. The founder and executive director, I started this agency in May 2020. And the reason I did it was I wanted actually, there was a purpose why I do what I do. And I just, I had the opportunity working for Open Door for 9 years plus. So I have seen my community and the needs, and there was something that I wanted to step up and do, and moving forward, the work that I was doing, the great work that I was doing Open Door, moving to a different journey. So this agency, we're going to be focusing on families and children and adults with disabilities and special healthcare needs. We are mainly focusing on our African diaspora and African American families. So we're focusing on our Black families. It is a nonprofit agency. We just recently, a couple of months ago, received our nonprofit letter. And this is a much needed agency, organization actually to support. So our vision is we wanted to see this agency to be a parent center for Black people with disabilities and their families. We are brand new, so I'm going to touch on a couple of the things that we're hoping to see and that we want to move forward in the future. So we have a program that's called Family Link Program. So we're hoping this program focusing on connecting Black families to resources so that they can continue to engage and build a strong bond, and by connecting them with other families who have the same living experience and have access services, and match with a cultural broker who speaks the families and their languages. So some of our programs was co-created by parents. So we asked parents what they want to see this new agency, and some of the things that parents brought up that they would love to have parents who look like them, who have the same experience, living experience to support them. So that's where the Family Link program is going to be, is hiring multicultural or multicultural broker who are culturally responsive to provide one-on-one direct support for families. And again, this agency is brand new, so we're just moving forward. This is one of the programs. There's another program that actually we were just funded by the county. It's called our Black Family Engagement. I think family engagement is a huge area for our families. And I have learned a lot that when I advocated for a school district and etc., when we talk about family engagement, our families and with DD was not included. So this is the area that we would like to improve. And this is a brand new, actually, we just got funded to do a civic engagement on that program. So the family engagement program, we're going to be promoting involvement in making sure that we have a meaningful and successful engagement in all aspects for families and self-advocates with disabilities, special healthcare needs. So that's the program that we're going to be working on. And the area that actually this program that we're going to focus on is the equity and social justice area. So we want to make sure that these families are connected to services, mainly for our disparity and barrier that related to education and community inclusion. we will be collaborating with other agencies and having that opportunity to work with them. And then we're just want to move forward. And actually, we came from it. We as a Black families still have an area where it's still a lot of disparity and stigma. So we would love to making sure that we create a unity in our Black community, making sure that we exist. We feel that we do not get the same services with our white allies. But then when we're within in our Black community, we also see that stigma and isolation, and those are the things that we want to focus on and making sure that our families can participate. It's a village to take care of a child, so it is a village to serve an individual with disabilities, and these families belong to the community, so making sure that they have those services. Staffing wise, myself, I have another staff that is working also. She's a parent. And then we got a couple of volunteers. Majority are folks that were supporting us are parents who have children with special needs, and also siblings who have sisters and brothers with disabilities. So we're actually brand new, trying to, the agency's brand new. I'm not new to the work. So we're just hoping, we're moving slowly. So we just received the 2 fundings, and we're just trying to figure out where do we fit in. I would love to see this agency to be a center where, again, we support our Black families, but also work with or collaborate with different agencies and expand that work on that level. And then the Family Engagement Center is that there's a lot of issue that comes to what we face every day. So we wanted to create a space where these families actually can have that safe space without apologizing how they feel that the system it's affecting them. So that's what we're gonna have, that safe space where families can come in and talk about that. Thank you for having me. If you guys have any questions, I'll love to answer those questions.
All right. Does anyone have a quick question for her? Hold on.
I'm sorry, can I add another, another area heavily we want to focus on is advocacy. I have seen the work I was doing with Open Door, and when I was collaborating with ARC with Kathy Murahashi, how we were an Olympia. So this is another area that we want to build a Black self-advocate and parents who can advocate and go to Olympia, because when you go to Olympia, you don't see people who look like me. So this is another area that we really want to focus on. There's a lot of people that have paved the way for us, but how do we, as a Black families, and be on that space and show that solidarities and talk about our issue that also affects differently some of our other families. So those are the area that we want to focus on as well.
We have a question in the chat from Tanika. Is this a statewide agency or a county Pacific agency?
Right now, we're doing a county, but we actually, there was 2 parents that from Snohomish that contacted us that both speak Swahili. So as we grow, you know, we will do the best we can. I know that we're focusing on majority some of the African languages, but as we again grow, right now we don't have a capacity. And I have been in the leadership where I took so much, so I want to make sure that we move slowly and focus on internal structure. So that's the things that we're doing, but we're happy to work with the state of Washington and see what we can do to support families.
Thank you. Looks like a lot of people are saying thank you in the comments about your work. It's really important work. Also, Sean Latham asks, thank you, Hudan. Do you focus only on younger families or also adults with IDD of color?
We're focusing on all, 0 to life. Yes, thank you.
If there are no other questions, hold on. We'll move on. I don't think Senator Braun has arrived yet, so we'll move on to Diane Staden
Hi,
for the bills of
everybody.
interest.
We'll continue to watch for Senator Braun, but he is now the Republican floor leader, which means he has a lot of responsibility when they're taking votes on the floor. And he apparently must have gotten caught up in something, but we'll keep an eye out for him. He'll join us if he can get away from things to spend a couple minutes with us. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see the bills, but I'm not going to go through them today. I think what's more important is to tell you where we're at in the process with bills. So Monday, all bills have to go through first a policy committee where the public testifies and talks about the need to have that policy created. And if they have a fiscal note, if they are going to cost money, once they pass the policy committee, they have to go to a fiscal committee. Monday was the cutoff for policy committees. So that means any bill that had been in a policy committee had to have a hearing, and it had to be an executive session to be passed out of that committee. At that point on Monday, we lost a lot of bills. If they didn't make it out of the policy committee, then the bills died. If they did, they moved on to appropriations or ways and means or finance. And they have until this next Monday to make it out of those committees. So we're hitting a couple of
Diane,
deadlines.
it looks like Senator Braun has just arrived. I
Oh,
just
yay.
admitted him. Thank you, Senator Braun, for joining us. You're welcome to start. Thank you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
You can.
Okay, super. I only have a few minutes. We're on the floor. We've been on the floor all morning. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm coming a little bit flat-footed, but I just give you a quick update. Hopefully, you had a chance to see some of the things that we put in the proposed Senate Republican operating budget that did stuff for our DD community, including $50 million into the DD trust, fully fund the Ruckle House bill, and paid to eliminate the wait list. So I think some good things will push. The idea behind that budget is to show that we can make these kind of investments in our state to help our DD folks around the state with services in their community. So along those same lines, we're working on a couple bills. As you know, I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know here. The bill that Senator Kaiser and I work on the Ruckle House recommendations. We're working on some ideas on how we could, as we did in our bill, put some substantial funding into the trust account. I think that'll be a tougher push, but we're gonna give it a try. And I just have to keep pressure on this as we get through fiscal cutoff and into what I consider, kind of the prime budget season just before the revenue forecast comes out next month, but before the budget actually released. So that's what I got. I'm happy to take a few questions. I got to go back to the floor in just a moment, but thanks for inviting me. Happy to be here. We'll keep pushing on DD issues in the legislature in 2021.
We really appreciate you, Senator Braun. You have really been a champion on our issues. And I know that the 5268 has a lot of things in it. It's not just a bill about one issue. So from what we see, this bill would basically be setting the stage for next year when we'd be able to ask for money, and we'd have some information and data from this bill to work from when we start getting funding for what we need. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's all correct. The concern as we came into the session was we weren't sure what the budget would be like. We know that some of the stuff as we make the long-term transition from institutional, the remaining institutional care in our state to really a wealth of community services around the state. there's money involved. There's no question about that. It's not just money, but it's definitely it's prioritization and money. I actually think I'm more optimistic that we can do some of that this year. We don't have to just, it's not just a role of keeping the momentum going, which is how we started. But we could actually, I'm hopeful we actually can make some of that investment in the current climate. As you may have heard, the budget's in much better shape than I thought, 6 months ago. I think anybody thought 6 months ago. So I think we not only keep pressure on that bill to keep momentum and keep it in play through next session as well, but we also, I'd encourage you to think about what if you had to pick a few things in there that you could fund right now, what would they be? And we should talk about that, maybe not on this call because I'm about to run out of time, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on what we do sooner rather than later if we could.
Okay, we'll put your email in the chat box so that people can send you any ideas or concerns they have. Does that work?
That's great. That's great.
We really appreciate you taking time to speak with us today, and we'll all be watching the hearing this afternoon to see how that goes as well, and hopefully move that bill right along.
That's what we're pushing on. This is a great project. I'm happy to work on it.
Thank you so much, Senator Braun. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of your time on the floor.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye. And that is awesome getting to hear from Senator Braun. Diane, if you'd like to continue your segment, you're more than welcome to.
Okay, so as I said, we're reaching cutoff. And as I mentioned when talking to Senator Braun, the bill that he mentioned, Senate Bill 5268, it's actually a substitute bill now, is being heard this afternoon in Ways and Means at 1:30. And so we'll put the information in the chat after I get done. You're welcome to sign in for the bill. We try not to have a lot of people testify because the policy for the bill has already been heard in the policy committee. And this committee, when it's in Ways and Means, is just to talk about why the money should be spent on this bill. So it's addressing the fiscal piece of it. So there shouldn't be a lot of testimony. This week is for both House and Senate is trying to move as many bills as possible forward out of the money committees. And so they have, like the House is going to be on the floor Saturday, starting at 9 a.m. and all day long. Plus they have hearings all week this week too. So their hope is to pass as many bills as possible. But in order to do that, if they have 20 people testifying on one bill, it slows that process way down. So it's better to submit your comments in writing, which you can do on the website as well, and then sign in so the committee can see how much support that bill has. So I'll put all that information about bills in the chat for you. And I am going to hand it off to Alex now.
Diana, can I say something really quickly? Sure. I know that some folks have been really frustrated in the past when they've signed up to testify on bills. And I just wanted to relay that yesterday I was signed up to testify on a bill and I got a note from the prime sponsor 5 minutes before I was supposed to testify that there was just not enough time in the committee, like what you were just saying, in order to testify. So I just really wanted to normalize that for people, that happens quite a bit, that you might think you might wait around for 2 or 3 hours to testify, and then at the last minute, you're asked not to testify. The other thing is when you put it in the chat box to sign up to testify or to comment on the bill, will you just be really explicit on the buttons that you need to push? Because some people are still having trouble navigating getting there.
Yes, that's what I was going to do.
Thanks.
Maybe we could even, if we have time, Diana, share a screen maybe at the end for folks who are interested in seeing where to click.
Yeah, we can do that too. Okay, so I will turn it over to Alex at this point.
After attending this briefing, you have many options to advocate to your legislators. You can schedule a Zoom with your legislators, testify at a hearing, email your legislators about bills that are important to them, watch each advocacy day afterwards on our website, email to get virtual appointments with your legislators. You can watch hearings on TVW. You can sign in to testify at future hearings. You can sign in pro, con, or other, or submit written testimony on a bill. And be sure to join us for future advocacy days. We need to make sure you are satisfied with Advocacy Day. Be sure to fill out our feedback form. Let's walk through it together. Advocacy Day is a project of the ARC of Washington State and funded by the Developmental Disabilities Council. Your feedback helps us to continue improving and helping your voice to be heard. Start by putting in your email address. Next, you select the advocacy day you are giving input for. Today is February 17th, Families Save Money Day. Then you respond if this is your first advocacy day or not. Next, you pick the smileys that answer how you feel about the virtual advocacy day. Then you submit the form. Just as easy as that. Your input helps Diana and the ARC to know what you like, what you don't like, what is helpful, what is not helpful. You can learn all about these and more ideas to get involved on our website at www.arcwa.org and click on Advocacy Days. You can also contact us at sale@arcwa.org or diana@arcwa.org if you need help. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Alex, for that helpful information. Does anybody have any questions? Stacy put in the chat, Senate Bill 5268 is an omnibus bill that has a lot of different important pieces. The foundation for caseload forecasting is critical, reducing case management ratios, reviews needs for respite and crisis stabilization, and a relook at DD eligibility process.
So Ivanova, I'm going to share my screen real quick and we'll go through
No problem.
how to sign up there. So I put the information in the chat box, but also here is the website that when you go to it, this is what you'll see. And you can choose House or Senate, depending upon what bill and which committee you're wanting to testify or sign in on. So we're going to click Senate. And at the top, it'll tell you which committee do you want. Today, we want the Ways and Means Committee. And then which one, because it's scheduled all week. So we want the one on 2/17, which is today. Once you click those two things, you'll get a list of all the bills that are being heard in that committee. And the bill we're looking at is SSB 5268. Once you click the bill number, you're going to see these three things. I want to submit written testimony, I want to testify live during the hearing, or I would like my position noted for the legislative record. The third one, noting your position, is where you go in just to sign in, and you would sign in. First, you have to put your position. You click on this, you're either pro, you're for the bill, con, you're against the bill, or other. Maybe you like the bill, but there's one thing or two things or something in it that you don't like and you would like to see changed. So once you put your position in, then you're going to fill out all this information. And you don't have to represent an organization. You can just be a parent or a self-advocate or service provider, whatever. It doesn't have to be a specific organization in there. And then you're going to click on I'm not a robot, so they know you're not, and click Submit Registration. And then if you want to go back here, again, we're going to select Ways and Means today. And we'll select, that's the bill that we're talking about. So you can, this first one, if you want to submit written testimony, that's where you would put that at. You can also see who's been signed in for this agenda by going here. Now, there's a lot of people who have signed in to testify for a Ways and Means bill during cutoff. Everybody might get 1 minute if they can get through everybody. And then we have a lot of people down here who are not testifying, but just signed in for the bill, supporting it or other on a couple of them. So we'll hopefully, if you have not signed in yet, hopefully you will do that today before the 1:30 hearing, and then have your name and your position known. So I think that covers it. Is there any questions from anybody?
Diana, this is Jeremy. I know that you had that page bookmarked, which is a great thing to do. I have a bookmark too, but for people who are starting from the legislature home screen, leg.wa.gov, can you just show how you get to this page? I think it's just leg.wa.gov.
Okay, we'll start there.
Yeah, because it looks, yeah, Noah said it looks a little different.
God, it's been so long since I went here. I bet because I have everything bookmarked I want.
Diana, is it okay? This is Noah. Is it okay if I should tell you what I do to sign in?
Sure.
So on the right side, it says participating in the process. Underneath, let your voice be heard. And then on the right side, you go down to the committee sign in remote testimony. And this is the page that looks a little different than it did yesterday even.
Or testifying in a virtual hearing.
So if you go down, it says the committee sign in - remote testimony. And that link you can click on up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not letting me.
So where it says get your position on the bill noted, there's a link to your right a little bit. Yeah.
There we go.
So yeah.
And that brings us to the screen I was at.
Yeah.
That's one of the hazards of bookmarking is you sometimes don't remember how you got to that bookmark. But it makes it a lot easier if you do.
And they've changed this. I agree with Noah. I've actually emailed the Legislative Information Center pleading with them to make it easier. There's no reason why you should have to jump through all those hoops, but this was just changed as of yesterday. I agree with Noah.
Yeah, it was easier yesterday than it is today, unfortunately.
Well, that's why I recommend it. Once you get to this page, bookmark it so that you can keep it there. I actually just keep this tab open all the time so that I can just click on the tab and I'm right there.
Sean and Tracy also had two really good questions. Sean is wondering if you sign in to testify, do you also have to sign in with just your position or not?
Once you sign in to testify, you have to put your position on that as well. So whether you get to testify or not, it's recorded what your position is.
And just to clarify, if you do that with your testimony, you don't have to go to the third option and mark your position down for the record in addition.
Correct.
Right.
If you've signed in to testify, you don't have to put it in the third one.
And Tracy's wondering if people are able to sign in more than once. For example, if you are signing in once as a parent and once as an agency representative.
Yes, you can do that. In fact, there are times when people get confused and it's not really easy to tell right away if you're already registered for that, unless you go see who is signed up for the hearing. And so sometimes you'll see people's name listed twice, exactly the same. It wasn't that they signed in for different organizations. They just didn't realize they'd already signed up and then they signed in again. But the legislative committee takes care of those kind of things. They know when they're duplicates. And so they'll just remove those and have just one in there in the end. Any other questions? Well, we really appreciate everybody coming. We've run over a bit today. We've still got 10 minutes. We'll just kind of leave it open for people to be able to chat and visit, network, whatever you would like to do. But we really appreciate everybody coming, and we'll see you next week.